Labour's Shadow Levelling Up Secretary and MP for Wigan, Lisa Nandy, is with us. Hi.
Hello, good morning.
Thanks for allowing us to come to this amazing town. Coverage this week and just chatting to people locally, it's been amazing.
It's brilliant. The whole town is buzzing because you've been everywhere this week. I've been following your progress. Beach Hill Primary School, the Clem, the Brick, all over the town, and seeing the amazing stuff that people are doing here, even in really difficult times, even with a government that is standing aside while people are in crisis. We're stepping up and getting on with it. That's what, as you know, this town has always done. People are doing it right across the country, but this week in Parliament, the government had a chance to actually back their people, didn't do it. And I've just got back from London, just got home, and I'm pretty cross about it.
Well, you say that, but, you know, the government would say in response to that we are heading towards a recession. They're doing absolutely everything they can. It looks as though we will see a tax decrease, probably in the summer. There isn't a magic money tree. They can only do so much.
But some of the measures that we proposed yesterday in Parliament that the government voted down don't actually cost the public any money. We called for a windfall tax on the oil and gas producers. They made record profits.
Yeah, but it's only 600 quid a household, even if it goes through.
But you know that every single pound that goes into people's pockets at the moment can be the difference between make or break. Most people now are struggling to keep their heads above water. We also asked them to cancel the planned national insurance contributions rise.
That's a lot of money coming into the coffers,
But
though.
we are the only developed country that is putting up taxes on working people in the middle of not just an inflation crisis, but also coming out the other side of a global pandemic. And you've heard it all week. You've heard it from people in every part of this town, not just people who were struggling before, but people who've never struggled before and are now just finding that they don't know how they're going to pay their rent, their mortgage, they don't know how they're going to afford their weekly shop, as well as their energy bill. And the government should be doing every single thing that they can, moving heaven and earth to try and help people at the moment.
Well, the national insurance increase is bringing in a lot of money, so they would say, of course, that's what we need to do at the moment. A windfall tax would only bring in about £2 billion. It's just a drop in the bucket. So what would Labour do?
Well, as well as those two things, the other thing that we proposed yesterday was cracking on with retrofitting homes, putting home insulation into people's homes.
That?
Well, that's been an ongoing programme that has fallen off a cliff under this government, but the councils are raring to go to do. It's an investment, Kate. This is the point.
But where does the money come from?
But it would cut £400 of people's energy bills, and you know that if you get every year, and if you get money back into working people's pockets, they go out and spend it. When you walk up and down the high street, you must see that although we're still doing okay here in Wigan, you've got money lenders, boarded up shops at the bottom of the high street. We didn't have those 10 years ago, and that's because we prioritised putting money into people's pockets so that they could go out and spend it. It's nonsense to talk about levelling up this country, as the government used to do but seems to have abandoned, when you're not putting money into working people's pockets.
But where's the investment going to come from to make people's homes less drafty, etc.? Where's that money coming from?
Well, look, it's an investment. So
where from?
First two measures that we proposed are cost neutral to the public purse. The third one is about potentially bringing forward benefit uprating. So you calculate the amount that benefits increase every year based on inflation. The current benefit system is based on the inflation rate last year, which was dramatically lower. So one thing that the government could do that wouldn't cost any money is bring that forward, and we asked them to look at that as well yesterday. Every single one of those measures, the Chancellor set his face against and said, not now. But now is the moment when this money and this help really counts for people. We need a government that backs our people. We're doing great work, as you can see, but we need a government that steps up and helps us.
Now, you say that the government is not in charge, but some of the people that I'm talking to this week have talked about that posh bloke who's been knighted with a really nice suit on, who comes from a really posh part of London. You know, how much is he in touch with what's happening here?
I think he's very in touch. He and I are going to be in Leeds in just a few hours' time talking to people about the cost of living crisis. We've been all over the country, to Grimsby, to Burley, to Doncaster in recent months, listening to what people have got to say, which is why we came forward with this package of emergency measures in the budget this week, in the Queen's speech this week, to try to get the government to bring forward an emergency budget. I think people do appreciate, actually, that Keir Starmer is trying to make sure that the main concern for most people is heard and dealt with at the highest levels of government. If he were Prime Minister right now, people would not be struggling to survive and put food on the table, because we would be knocking £600 off energy bills for those who most need it, £200 for everybody, and bringing forward an emergency budget to actually start to tackle this problem.
What is it about the posh borough of Islington and Labour leaders, though? I think we've had 4 or 5. Only one of them's been successful.
Well, look, throughout our history, Labour has had to fight really hard to gain the public's trust and inspire people to vote for us. We've only won 3 times in our entire history. I'm determined that the next time is going to be at the next election, and I'll tell you why, because I wake up every single day in my town looking around me thinking, imagine what we could do with a government that backed us. We've survived really tough times here in Wigan. You know that. When the mines closed, it was really difficult. A decade of austerity has not been kind to us. Wigan Council has had the 3rd worst budget cuts in the country. But despite all of that, look at the spirit here, look at what we're doing, and imagine what we could do with a government that backed us.
2 questions before I let you go. I know you need to go to Leeds. The Sun's saying this morning that Labour might get as many as 20 police questionnaires over Beergate. It's as bad as Downing Street.
Well, look, we've already been cleared for this once, and I'm confident that we'll be cleared again. I'm not surprised that the Tories are trying to throw mud at us. I think it suits them to talk about that when they don't want to talk about what's actually happening to people in places like Wigan, and we're determined that that's not going to happen. Right up and down this country at the moment, people are in crisis, people are in pain, and we're going to do something to sort that out.
Why do you think the Tories have not withdrawn the work from an MP that's been accused of rape?
I don't know, but I share the view of many Conservative female MPs who've spoken out in the last few hours about that over the last 24 hours since this news came into the public domain. I just think this is disgraceful. Parliament is supposed to be not just a safe place to work, not just for MPs, but for all of the staff who work there. But also we're supposed to set an example to the rest of the country. And I just genuinely cannot understand that decision. I want to give those brave Conservative MPs who've spoken out about the decision by their own whips my absolute full backing today. Something has got to be done.
50-odd MPs, including from your own front bench, being investigated. I mean, is it not a safe space for women in the chamber?
I don't think Parliament is a particularly modern workplace. I would love us to move out of the building. It's sinking into the mud. It's riddled with asbestos. It needs serious work. I'd love us to turn that building into a place that people could come and look round, a museum, something to learn about the history of parliamentary democracy, and go and work in a modern workplace where people have normal, decent professional standards. Most people who work there are decent, they are professional, but there's still far too much of an old boys club about it. It means that people like me, when you walk in there for the first time,
an old boys club, though. It's disgraceful.
But I think it is disgraceful. But I also think it's cultural. I think there's some kind of feeling of entitlement amongst some of the members of Parliament. Not many, I have to say. Most of us are quite normal people. But there is this feeling of arrogance, of entitlement, this culture that has grown up that I think we've got to consigned to the bin of history. This is 2022, and we cannot continue with a situation where a small minority of people are able to go and walk around behaving like this at the heart of our democracy.
I must let you flee. It's good to talk to you. Thanks very much indeed.